Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome everyone to our show tonight. We have the wonderful privilege to be highlighting one of our indie authors. So we're so excited about that this evening. And so we welcome everyone to the show because we encourage everyone to drop everything and read. So we're excited for each and every one of you joining us today and being a part of our show. I am your host, Denise Bryson. And today I am very excited to be interviewing JC, and get her name right, Villegas. I hope I said that right.
Yeah,
she is the author of Journey of a Cotton Blossom. Hi, JC, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great meeting you and whoever's listening. I appreciate you taking your time out.
Yes.
I am JC Villegas. This is my first novel, Journey of a Cotton Blossom, and strangely enough, this was not my path. Well, I thought this was not my path, but I had a dream that brought this story to me. And it persisted for 9 months. And each time I had the dream, it brought more and more detail of this novel to me. And I knew then, I couldn't not write it. So through that, Journey of a Cotton Blossom was born.
It is so amazing to hear authors talk about that journey of how things come to them. Some people say that the characters start speaking to them. You saw the character of the whole story plot out in a dream. And so it's just so interesting because what that tells me is that somebody wants their story told. And so this is the way they're getting it done. They're reaching people that are gifted to be writers. And sometimes we don't even know that, but we are gifted to be writers. And then all of a sudden here comes this amazing story coming to us. And we're like, where in the world is this coming from? But anyway, it's so amazing just to hear that journey of just how that came to you. And then of course, you was like 9 months later thinking, oh, I guess I better start writing.
Yeah, exactly. Like this book definitely came through me. Not my original idea. It came through me from ancestors, God, what have you. But yeah, I knew I had to listen because otherwise I wasn't going to sleep again.
And so I was reading a little bit about it. And so some of the characters like Isaiah, and then I think it's Joseph. So you're telling their journeys, and they have 2 separate journeys, but a similar path, but even though they're 2 separate journeys. Sure. And it's so relevant to today's, what's going on today and even in today's society, especially Isaiah's point, Isaiah's story is, and even Joseph's story, we've seen some countless movies about his story and just how all of that came about and all of the journeys and even the mother of the story. So I'm excited to hear what all is going to happen. So it's really intriguing and very exciting story. So you want to know more. Just by reading what I read, you just want to know more. So that's what's exciting about it.
Yeah, thank you. And, I think that's the point and not just for people to read this book, but the point is to get the message across.
Yes.
That not only are there 2 separate paths, but they have so much similarities of just, anybody that feels ostracized from society or different or what have you, those are similar paths. And I think that's a strong message in today's society. That's something that's very much needed.
Now, what is the significance of the book title? How did you come up with the title of the book?
Again, came to me in a dream. I believe it's just all their journeys in life. And it all started on a plantation growing cotton. And I think it mirrors the beauty, yet it mirrors the ugliness. So I think it has both in that.
Both of those, yes, I do too. So then what is Journey of a Cotton Blossom really about? Could you tell us just some of the details? Because we can't tell the whole book, because we need you to go get the book and read it. That's what we really need you to do.
Yes, please do. Yeah, no, it's a historical fiction, and it's set in Mississippi. It spans from the 1940s to the civil rights era of the 60s, all the way to the push for LGBTQ equality of the 90s and early 2000s. And racism and prejudice are alive and well as this family takes their walk of life through hardships and struggle, facing their inward and outward journeys through society. But ultimately, Journey of a Cotton Blossom is about the power to sustain one's soul throughout hardships and crude discrimination.
Yes, and I think that's so important for people to know that, you know, no matter what your story is or what it is, you still have to persevere to get through whatever it is, because you are who you are, and you have to be secure about who that person is, and not let anybody tell you to do something different, because you are who you are. And I think that's one thing that we all have to grasp a hold of in life. People are who they are. We all are who they are. We're all made different. We're not really made, you know, at the same. We all have distinct personalities, and we're distinctly who we are. And so we have to own that. I think that's what, and I hope that is one of the things that people garner from this as well, is that, you know, people are who they are, and you have to allow people to be that without prejudice.
Yes, and that's why I think that stories and movies and TV shows, songs, you know, all types of media that focus on diversity. That's why I think that that's so important.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, it is so important. Now, how did you come about by writing such a powerful and sensitive topic? And both of these are both powerful and sensitive topics.
So yes, very much so. So my parents told me since I was as young as could be, the second I saw any kind of injustice, I immediately wanted to correct it. And I would fight against it, even as young as 3 years old. And so I've always had this strong pull that that's something that I was supposed to do in my life. Mm-hmm. But like I mentioned previously, as weird as it seems, I didn't choose to write this book. This book chose me. It chose me through the dreams. It chose me through whatever gave me this powerful story. I'm just the conduit for this. So yeah, it was definitely in me to fight for things, to fight for people that there's prejudice against or racism or inequality, what have you. But no, the story actually chose me. So I'm happy. I'm the conduit for that.
Yes, but it seems like that was a path of yours. I mean, even though when you think about it, if that was something that you were really powerful about at such a young age, then that's why this came through it. And so that's why it was important for you to portray, the prejudice and the injustice in your writing. And could you tell us a little even more about that?
Yeah, and maybe that's why I was chosen, is because I already had that in me. Mm-hmm. Somebody else would have brushed that off. But I just think it's so important, again, to show diversity in all kinds of media, because there's so many people that feel like they're alone. Mm-hmm. And they need something like this to grasp onto. Or there's so many people out there that don't necessarily get it because they've never had to really kind of struggle through any kind of prejudice. And so they need stories like this to be able to grasp it and maybe grab hold of some sympathy or maybe even empathy towards people that are not like them. Yeah.
Now tell us a little bit about Joseph and his journey, because they're similar journeys where they're facing prejudice and they're facing things like that, but they're going in. It's a separate path. It is a different path for each of them.
Joseph was just born into extreme discrimination and injustice. And his path was very much he was a little boy. He had no idea what was going on. He had no idea why he was treated differently and what kind of horror that could probably put on a child's soul, to not have a mother raising him, to not have a father raising him, but these two figures that were so awful towards him. And then he did have one figure that was very motherly, grandmotherly, but she passed away very early on. And not only was he struggling to figure out who he was, but he was struggling for acceptance at the same time, which you shouldn't have to, but that's kind of a human condition.
Yeah.
And especially as a child and a teenager, is you want acceptance. You want love. Love is the human condition.
Yeah.
And you know, that was kind of his journey and how confusing that must have been. And of course, he ends up being a very powerful, successful person and lawyer who fought against discrimination. But yeah, that must have been very confusing for him growing up as a child.
Yes, because when our parents are not there, like I was having a discussion with somebody. When your parents are not there, then because they can't take you on that journey of who you are and trying to help you to find that out. And then when you're left with no one there, and then you're in such a difficult situation as well, especially set in the times that he was set in and being in that kind of difficult situation. I mean, it's very difficult to even to feel accepted or to feel like you're loved or anything. So, it's so much. And so we have so many people. I was telling someone, we don't really know people's journey. And so when you see people act in various ways, sometimes we got to take a step back because we don't know the journey that got them to that place. Yeah, instead of always being on the defense about things when it comes to those types of, circumstances that might pop up, in the workplace or something like that. What was their journey? You have to understand that, and then you might understand why they're behaving so.
Exactly. I always try to, if someone's rude in traffic or something like that, I always try to reposition myself and think, what horrible has happened in their day today, or what horrible has happened in their life, because that really gives a different perspective for you, because then you can sympathize with them and be like, oh, okay, this isn't about me. This is about something horrible that happened their day or their year or their life. And they just haven't been able to deal with it quite yet.
Yes. And I think that's one of the messages that I'm getting from the book as well. Now then tell us a little bit about not Joseph, but Isaiah.
Isaiah. Yeah. So there are a lot of similarities between myself and Isaiah. He is not me, but there are similarities. Grew up in Mississippi in a Southern Baptist church, gay. And so he goes through a lot of the same struggles that I went through. And it's just, his parents love him incredibly, but they can't see the difference in him. It's not just outwardly. And so he has to hold this huge secret that he feels that is just eating him inside. But yet every Sunday and Wednesday he's going to church and he's being told who he is going to send him to hell. So that is, and as a child, that's what the message he's growing up with. And so that is the most powerful yet debilitating message I think you can give a child, is that who they are, is going to send them to hell, because he loves God. He loves Jesus. He feels like he's a good Christian boy, but yet he can't change who he is no matter how hard he tries, even to attempting suicide. And so, he really struggles with coming to that, all the way to the point to where he finally gets the strength to come out, and then he's not accepted by everyone, including his father, who's struggling with how he was raised, which is the same way in the South, in the church, and been told the same things. So they both kind of have to play with, what's the truth and what they've just been told. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back. So we're going to take a break and hear from some of our wonderful sponsors, and then we will be right back to continue on this journey. This is a great book and great storyline. So excited to hear some more about it.
Great. I'm excited.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lecture is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon.
Hello, here I'm back again. This is Denise Bryson, your host, and we have had the privilege to interview JC. I'm getting it right, Villegas, getting her name right and everything. And she is the author of Journey of a Cotton Blossom. And so this is a very interesting story. It has 2 different storylines, and of course it has a lot of other meat to it. So it's a lot in this book. And so, but it's a great story. It tells us about journey of a path of a father, and then later on his son, and just their different paths and growing up in the South, and talks about the prejudice and things. And we'll let her tell the story because she is the author, so I don't want to tell too much of it. But anyway, we're so glad to have her back, and we were in a good conversation before we left. But we're going to go on to another question. It says, how do you go about trying to represent characters who are different from you in terms of race, gender, or orientation? So how do you go about that? Because I know people would want to hear, just that journey as well.
I think it's important to get as much knowledge as you can. And then not only get as much knowledge, but then you have to make this person real, like a flesh human being. And you have to see through their eyes. You have to make sure that you don't see through your own misconceptions. You have to see through their eyes. Obviously they're not a real human being, but you make them as real as you can. And I think that's the key is knowledge, education, and then seeing through their eyes, not your own. I think that's a very important thing to do, to make sure that they're not caricatures, but real life human beings to everyone that reads.
Yes. And the thing about it is just the story. I think there are several people. There's a lot of people, not just several, but a lot of people that can relate to this story. And so that's why I think it makes it so much more real than just, some characters that begin to speak. But it makes it real because I believe there's so many people that can relate to it and that can identify with it. So that's what makes it awesome. And hopefully the message that is being written will be really a help to them in whatever their journey is or whatever part of their journey they're on in their life. So I think that's what's exciting about it, because it can be, it's not a self-help book, but at the same time, it does give some help, I think.
Yeah, that's 100% the goal, is for people to, once people read a book and get into these characters, they feel that they're maybe not them, or they can feel like they're them, but feel like they're family members, friends, close acquaintances, loved ones. Mm-hmm. And maybe that helps them see, through someone else's eyes as much as they can in someone else's shoes. Mm-hmm. And then therefore that can really just promote them to have more sympathy and even empathy. And on the other side of this, there's the people who have dealt with this kind of discrimination and prejudice and injustice. And, maybe it's a little kid sitting in a Southern Baptist church in Mississippi like myself, and they're sitting there, wondering why they're going to hell. And they read a book like this, there's characters in it that are like them, of all different kinds of backgrounds that are discriminated against, but they're like, oh, there's characters like me in it, and they don't feel so alone. They feel that someone else feels the same way. Someone else is like them, and I think that's very powerful and important.
Yeah, I do too. Because when I think about Joseph, him not having his parents, there's so many children today have grown up without parents, and yes. So and just seeing how he navigates through that. and deals with it. And you know what I'm saying? They've had to deal with prejudices and things like that. And so I think that speaks to, even though it was said back in the 1940s and in a different era, and you know, it came up through that era, that it's still very relevant. The whole concept is very relevant today because people are still going through and growing up like that as well, even in the 2000s.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I say this all the time. Unfortunately, it's still so timely. It's a historical fiction, but it could not be more timely.
It couldn't be more.
And that is unfortunate. And then at the same time, I think that it's great that messages like that are out there, because now more than I think ever in my lifetime, we need more messages of inclusion and need more messages of equality, and need more messages of just love.
Just love, yeah.
Love.
And that's the thing we have to say, because even with Isaiah and his story, there are so many people that identify with Isaiah's story. And so, and just, you know, even having to come out and tell their parents and all those things, and just all the things that goes along with that, or they might have to face because they decided to, I'm going to be who I am. And so tell somebody else about it, and then they not accept it. That's a whole nother level. So then you still sending somebody through an emotional situation when, you know, there's somebody to love. There's somebody to love. Everybody needs love, and everybody is somebody to love. And so we have to remember that. I remember a young lady asked me, because I'm a minister, so a young lady asked me, she said, well, my parents say I'm going to hell. Am I going to hell? And I told her, I said, I don't have no heaven and hell to put you in. I can't tell you that. I said, that's one thing I will not say to anybody, because I just don't believe that. I believe God is a God of love, and so I believe that. And so I think that's the message we have to do, and then let everybody work out their particulars as they go through life, like we all have to do, whatever our story is. And so writing about injustice can perhaps carry a very heaviness to it. So how do you ensure that that you are not taking care? I mean, how do you take care of yourself while engaging in such a deep topic? That's what we want to say. Humans.
So I think you know, the topics that I write about are, even though it's fiction, it's extremely real. People really deal with these issues every day in our society, and it's very dark. And so I went to some really dark places while writing Journey of a Cotton Blossom. But and I mean, how can you not? But I think when I got really dark, some of the things that I enjoyed to do just to kind of get out of that is get out in nature and jog with my dog, and then I really enjoy like sitcoms or comedy specials, and that's something that can really lighten up the mood and take you out of that space and put you in a different space.
Yeah, me too. I like those kind of things.
Yeah, and because some of the shows. Some have substance, some don't, but sometimes it's just great to have something that just kind of numbs your mind. You know, that you don't have to think about real life things at the time, just to get you out of a certain space. But that's kind of how I dealt with it is nature, and then comedy, I guess.
And how do you think that these? I mean, because you kind of touched on a little bit earlier how this type of literature can help with the prejudices and bring healing to these types of situations. Because if you look in the school system, you know, some of our young people are dealing with so many things and some of these kind of same stories. And so just helping them come through without the bullying and all of those types of things. See, I think I'm just seeing so much to this story that can help others.
And I mean, that is my number one goal, is not book sales, but to help. Again, like I said, this story was given to me, and it was given to me for a purpose. The purpose was to help people, and to help people heal, or to help people not feel alone. But yeah, so it's just, again, like I said, that I feel that people that have never been put in a position of discrimination, you know, a majority of the people I grew up with have never faced discrimination. And they can see through this lens, through these characters, and get involved with them, and then maybe see a different side of the story that they would never see otherwise. And get involved with them and bring that sympathy, bring hopefully empathy, to where not only do they feel involved with them in the book, but maybe they see that in real life people in the world, and that helps them, and that change, that helps them, that motivates them to be more compassionate, to be more outspoken, to help people that maybe they normally wouldn't because they never saw the other side. And then again, like I said, kids who feel on the brink of suicide, which happens so often. LGBTQ kids are at the highest rate of suicide and suicidal attempts than any other teens or children that exist. And so, I think that's very important, because I didn't have anybody to look to. I had no one. I just had to figure it out on my own. And I think that's so important for kids, even adults. Adults struggle with this. I struggle with it. But just to have someone to look to that's like, okay, I'm not alone. Someone else is going through my struggle. Someone else is dealing with this. I'm not the only one in the entire world that this has been put upon, Yeah. So that's why I think it's very important. And I think that if we don't ever talk about it, then there's not ever going to be, you can't just brush stuff under a rug.
No, you can't.
It just builds up. So if we openly have an open discussion about things, not only have an open discussion, but that discussion can enact change. That change can help with eventually healing. And I think that's just so very important.
That's very important. That's why I think this is such a great book. Well, we're going to take another break, and then we'll hear some more from our wonderful sponsors, and then we will be back on Indie Beacon Radio. We'll be right back.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
The war has ended, but the memory lingers on. Has been written by Helen Monday and Christian Gutling. A story of a Dutch secret agent under German occupation, highlighted drama, and then the British rescuing him and teaching him how to navigate the fairy swordfish airplane. This book can be purchased on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, written by Helen Monday and Christian Gutling.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hello. Welcome back to the radio show. We have been interviewing J.C. Villegas, and the author of Journey of a Cotton Blossom. Now, JC, we're getting toward our end of our interview, but tell us how we can, what you have coming up. What's coming up for you, and as far as your book is concerned, and promotion and selling and all those things, and where you can be found and all of that. Tell us all of those stories.
Well, let's see. Journey of a Cotton Blossom, you can get it on all the major outlets like Amazon, Target.com, Walmart.com. You can get it on my website at jcvillegasbooks.com. Also follow me at JC Villegas 2016 on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. But I've actually written recently a children's book that has to do with a duck and a crane. but it is it's all about them, same kind of message, that it's about acceptance and equality, and they live in a pond and there are two different species of birds, and people don't think it's okay for them to be friends, and one gets bullied, and it's important to speak out for those friends and be friends with them anyway. And anyway, so hopefully that will be coming soon, but yeah.
That's where we can find you. So we are so happy that we got the opportunity to talk with you and chat with you about let me get it right, Journey of a Cotton Blossom. It was an awesome story. I think this is going to be really huge, and I really am excited. Please, everyone, go out and buy it and read it and share it with someone that you know that needs to hear this story, because it is an awesome story. It's a very good storyline, and we're so excited to have been a part, to be able to discuss it with you today. And so we're getting ready to be wrapping up. So it has been a pleasure to chat with you. I just want to say that about your written masterpiece. And so we're so thankful for that. And thank you so much for sharing with us for taking the time to be a part of Indie Beacon Radio. We're so excited that you took the time to do that and continue writing, because I'm telling you, that next story is going to be just as good too. So I'm excited.
Thank you all so much. And that I have another novel that's come to me again in a dream. So, not the exact same story, but again, a powerful one.
Okay, so we're so thankful for that. I think we have just a minute or so left. I was pulling my time, but anyway, we'll look forward to your books. And so everyone, please go out and support JC. Let me get it right, Villegas, and her book, Journey of a Cotton Blossom. We are so excited about that, and I think it will be awesome for stories for people to hear, especially our young people who are really dealing with so many things about, their lifestyle and coming out and things like that, and they just need it. And so, as being a teacher, sometimes you have all that to deal with, and I always try to love everybody, because I think everybody deserves love, and that's one thing they will ask you: do you love me? And you have to say, yes, I do love you, and treat them with love and respect. So that is so awesome. So I'm so thankful for you writing this book and listening. Even though it took you 9 months, you said, I better listen to what this dream is saying.
I had to listen. And one thing that I hope this brings to many, many other people, but even if it doesn't, my job's been done, is I had someone send me a letter, a young LGBTQ person send me a letter and said that Journey of a Cotton Blossom stopped them from committing suicide.
Oh, awesome.
So even if it's just that one person and it saved one life, it was totally worth everything that I've been trying to write it.
Yes, ma'am, it was working. Because that's what you want. That's the message that you want to be conveyed, and that it will help somebody to save somebody's life or something like that. Because so many of our young people dealing with that, and they shouldn't have to deal with it. We're all human beings, and we're all put here for a purpose.
Exactly.
And so thank you so much for taking the time to write this awesome book.
No, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Indie Beacon Radio. We have been interviewing JC Villegas and her book, Journey of a Cotton Blossom. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.